Testosterone in menopause, where do you stand? Yes or no? How about maybe? How about maybe? Maybe testosterone is a great thing for women to use when it's prescribed according to guidelines and research. There are guidelines for how we can prescribe very low doses of testosterone to women. I personally have used the International Society of the Study of Women's Sexual Health, or ISWISH. Those guidelines are available for providers to use, and basically we use about 10% or 1/10 of the dose that we use with men. We use a small little amount of androgel or testim gel, a testosterone gel, and it's rubbed into the upper inner thigh, and it can help with libido, and it can also help with a little bit more energy. But it mostly is used for libido, sex drive, and sexual satisfaction. We can also use guidelines from the International Menopause Society or from the Menopause Society that's located in Australia. So there's a lot of guidelines providers can use to safely provide testosterone to their patients. I always check my patients' testosterone levels ahead of time, check their lipid profile, because testosterone can affect cholesterol. And so when we do that, we can monitor somebody very, very carefully, make sure they're not having any side effects that they may not like. What are the side effects of testosterone? Well, remember, in our bodies already, we do have some testosterone. And testosterone is that male type, or what we know as an androgenic hormone. So testosterone can cause more hair growth on the chin and the lip. And so a lot of times in perimenopause, we notice, gosh, we're having a lot of these kinds of symptoms. Then that's because relative to estrogen, our testosterone levels are a little bit higher. So we manifest that on the skin. Sometimes high testosterone will cause hair loss, like a male pattern hair loss. Testosterone can also cause the clitoris to enlarge. And there may be a small enlargement that some women are okay with, but this can be permanent, right? So we want to make sure that we're monitoring levels, we're monitoring side effects, and we're doing that regularly. Testosterone also can cause more aggression. And sometimes that's okay, right? We want to feel like we're empowered and that we can speak up for ourselves. So when it's used according to guidelines, following lab values, checking in regularly with patients, and using an FDA-approved testosterone. Now, it's only approved for men, but we can use it off-label. That means we can prescribe it for women at 1/10 or 10% of the dose. That way we can make sure we're doing no harm. Now, what about other forms of testosterone? Because you've probably heard about pellets. In fact, you might already be using a testosterone pellet. Let me tell you my experience with my patients. Many are a little bit angry with me. They're like, why aren't you prescribing testosterone pellets? And what I tell them is what I'm going to tell you. Testosterone pellets are not regulated, so we don't know how much testosterone is in each pellet. And when those pellets are injected into the body, they're injected just under the skin, and they release a small amount of hormone every day. Now, some women do very well on testosterone pellets, and others don't. My experience is that patients go to see a provider who gives testosterone pellets, and they spend between $750 and $1,500 to be evaluated. They get special testing. Sometimes it's saliva testing, or what's known as Dutch testing, dried urine testing, comprehensive hormones. These tests have never been independently validated. So we don't know if those tests are actually reflective of what's going on inside the body. We have no idea. And my experience has been that all of my patients who've had Dutch testing and who've had saliva testing, doesn't matter. They're all getting the same amount of testosterone and other hormones from these providers. So I'm not sure why they're getting the testing in the first place, because the current guidelines, and maybe things will change as we do more research, the current guidelines are to base our treatment and our dosing on symptoms and making sure we don't have side effects. But in any case, when someone gets their first testosterone pellet, guess what? They feel great. They feel better than they have in years. They have a lot more vitality, a lot more energy. their sex drive is through the roof. And many of my patients use testosterone pellets to help them with weight loss and help them with muscle building so they can have more muscle definition and feel better. So in the first month, sometimes in the first 2 months, people feel great. And guess what they do? They tell all of their friends, and their friends are like, I'm getting that. I want to feel better. But then things change because those high doses of testosterone, guess what? At a certain point, they become like a steroid that bodybuilders use because after all, testosterone is a steroid hormone. Now, estrogen is also a steroid hormone, but in higher doses, something can happen in the body where our body really likes that high dose, but we're not getting the same results. And so after a few months, what I hear from my patients is that they don't feel better. They're not getting the same results from their pellets. And then sometimes they're having side effects that they don't like and that they weren't prepared for. Some are getting hair loss. Many find that they develop a small Adam's apple. Some are having voice changes. Now, these voice changes can be irreversible. And I've had patients have to see specialists to get voice coaching because their voices change so much that they don't sound like themselves. Another side effect is more hair growth, hair on the arms, hair on the legs, hair on the face. And one of the other side effects is that the clitoris can enlarge. The clitoris might go from being about the size of a pea to the size of an almond or a walnut. But I've also seen patients who have clitorises that are much bigger, like the size of a small apricot or a grape. This can be uncomfortable just to walk around with. Unfortunately, many women are not told about these side effects, and they're not seeing the person who gave them the pellets because they're not following up on these side effects. They're coming to see folks like me so that I can manage the side effects from these higher doses of testosterone. So the take-home message here is buyer beware. Too much of a good thing is still too much, and it may not be beneficial. You may be able to access a little bit of testosterone based on international guidelines that can help you feel better, help you with your sex life, and help restore some of the testosterone that you may have lost during menopause. There are providers who will prescribe this for you. It's a Schedule 4, which means the person needs to have a DEA number, a Drug Enforcement Agency number. It's a Schedule 4. That means it's highly regulated. But testosterone is available for men, and we can write it off-label for women. That means it's not an FDA indication, but we can write it for that, and we can safely monitor people. If you have questions or any comments about your experience with testosterone pellets, please leave them below. And if this has been a helpful video, please click like and subscribe and let me know what you'd like to hear about in the future. Take care, be well, and remember, there are always 2 sides to every story. Sometimes there's 3 sides to every story. Make sure that you're well informed before you make decisions that can have permanent effects for your body. After all, we all want to feel better, and there are ways to do that without putting yourself at risk.